Welcome back to our study of the book of Revelation. And in short devotions, I hope that you come to an understanding of why the Word of God is alive and it so affects our lives. We come to chapter 17. And with chapter 17, is similar to chapter 18, we're going to find something that's going to be exposed and is going to be brought down. And it's the very thing that some of us think we're going crazy. You see, the most disbelieved verse in the Bible, I believe, is Ephesians 6:12. It says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but harassing forces of darkness. Our problem isn't each other. We don't war against each other, but there is a force of power of darkness, Satan, Diabolos, the devil, who, according to Paul in 2 Corinthians 4:4, he's the god of this world. He's behind all the forces of this world. And I know we hesitate to say, well, the devil's behind that. Satan did that when we see evil. But the reality is that is the truth. There is evil, and it is a person who is an intelligent person that's orchestrating all the evil and the perversions and the painful things that we see taking our world down. People are being hurt, and hurt people, and it's all designed by the powers of darkness. That's our struggle. And what we have here really in Revelation 17 and 18 is that Satan's existence is exposed in chapter 17, and the fact that he's behind, as the god of this world, he's behind all the evil, especially that which is on the religious side. When we get to chapter 18, you're going to then see how that this judgment is going to take down all the forces, all the influence of the devil before Jesus establishes new heaven, new earth. So let's pick it up in chapter 17, and he says in verse 1, and one of the seven angels, remember these were the angels that poured the seven judgments of the bowl judgments back in chapter 16. And one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and spoke with me, saying, come here, and I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on the waters. Now, interesting, calls it the harlot, because when we get to chapter 19, and with the return of Christ, he returns for the final wedding, the confirmation of the wedding of the true bride, his church, those who belong to Jesus Christ. So in contrast to the faithfulness of a true bride, here you've got a prostitute, you got a harlot, you got the contrast. This is the false religion. This is Satan himself and basically his interacting with all the forces of this world, creating the evil that we see all around us. Well, here is the existence of it. He is behind it all. And notice the picture of the judgment of the great harlot. Now, if you go down, you're going to see that in verse 5, and upon her foreheads there's a name written, a mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, of all the abominations of the earth. In other words, remember, Babylon was man's first attempt back in Genesis 10 to disregard God, and we're going to build our own tower, and we're going to make an identity for ourselves, and we don't need God, even though he created us. But remember, that's the big betrayal, is we turned our back on the very one who created us, who loved us, has a plan for our lives and a purpose for our creation. And we turned our back and we wanted to have nothing to do with him. That's what the Bible calls sin. We chose to separate ourselves from God. But God made a bridge because he loved us. He created a possibility for us to come back into a relationship with himself. But those who refused to, because they were deceived by all the other choices, all the other religions, all the other moral systems, philosophies, well, who's the one intelligence behind all of it? It is the mother of harlots. It's Satan himself. And therefore creating all the abominations of the earth. And we see that the abominations have persecuted the woman, the Jews. You see the evilness of this as you go through this. Verse 8, the beast that you saw was and is not and is about to come. Now he says something very, very interesting. Out of the abyss and to go to destruction, and those who dwell on the earth will wonder whose name has not been written in the book of life. We'll get back to this. What's this book of life and having your name in the book of life? That becomes a big deal in chapter 20, and we'll come back to it at that time. But right here we have something very interesting historically. Satan's been the power behind all these world nations that have brought evil to this world. Verse 9, here is the mind which has wisdom. The seven heads talks about this beast having 7 heads and therefore 7 mountains on which the woman sits. So the woman has this oversight, this power of these 7 mountains, which make up these 7 heads. Well, what are these? Well, verse 10, he tells you. And they are 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. And when he comes, he must remain a little while. What's he talking about? What are the 5 that have fallen? Well, in history, there's been 5 world empire forces. It began with Egypt, and then Assyria, and then Babylon, then the Medo-Persian Empire, then Greece, then Rome. So at this time that this is written, Rome is in power. So you notice you've got Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persian Empire, Greece. They're gone. So 5 have fallen. 1 is, and that's basically Rome. But notice there's going to be another one coming. This is what Daniel chapter 9 says, that there's a prince who is to come. And of course, that's going to be the beast, the Antichrist that he talked about back in Revelation chapter 13. Well, it says, and the beast which was and is not, he himself is also the 8th. So there's going to be this rise of this final kingdom, but then he's going to rise and take control of this final kingdom. That's why it says in verse 12, and the 10 horns which you saw are the 10 kings. It's this 10 king confederation organizations that's headed up by this one particular individual. And again, this is detailed in the book of Daniel. And so here he says, verse 13, these have one purpose, and they give their power and authority to the beast. So you're not going crazy. Satan has been in control of this world. Don't be so surprised at the persecution and the evil and the perversion you see around us. So in verse 14, these will wage war against the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them because he is Lord of lords and King of kings. Remember, in the Hebrew language and Hebrew culture, they didn't have superlatives. If you and I talk about good, better, best, you don't say something's gooder, you say it's better. You don't say it's good or gooder, it's best, good, better, best. Those are superlatives. In the Hebrew, if you wanted to have a superlative idea, you just double it. If a place is really, really holy, then it's holy of holies. Well, here, Jesus is king, not just king, he's King of kings, and he's Lord of lords. And basically it says, and those who are with him are the called and chosen and the faithful. And then he said to me, the waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And his confederation of 10 horns, that's his final kingdom that will rise. He says that basically he will destroy it. As a matter of fact, he says that her destiny will be made desolate, naked, and will eat her flesh and will burn her with fire. For God has put it in their hearts to execute his purpose by having a common purpose, and by their kingdom to the beast until the words of God should be fulfilled. The point is, God keeps his promises, and he promises to make everything that's wrong, he's going to make it right. And the very one here exposed, Satan himself, the mother of Babylon, that has issued all of these world kingdoms and empires, that indeed, not only are they exposed here in chapter 17, but you'll see in the next chapter, they're going to be taken down. Again, the point is, persevere. Don't grow weary of well-doing, like Paul says in Galatians, but rather you win. That we're part of the winning team here. And God will bring his promise of judgment, and he'll right that which is wrong. So for us, we don't embrace evil. We don't embrace and be deceived, like Jesus said of the Pharisees in John chapter 8. You're of your father the devil. Why? Because you believe a lie. You're deceived. And how many people do you know? And how easy it is to believe a lie, be deceived. Sometimes things, they add a little truth, they mix it with lies, and we buy into it. That's why you got to learn the scriptures. That's why Paul says in 2 Timothy 2:15, study to show thyself a workman who need not be ashamed of himself, rightly dividing the word of truth. This is your hope. You're going to win. Persevere.